Are you ready to get the support you need in life? Join international indie bestseller Angela J. Ford and fantasy author Stephanie Bwabwa as they talk all things writing, publishing, and the real life of an indie author. Welcome to the Indie Author Lifestyle Show. Living your best indie life starts here.
Hello, hello, and thanks for the great introduction. What's up, and welcome to the Indie Author Lifestyle Show with me, Angela J. Ford.
And with me, Stephanie Bwabwa.
Well, great. Well, I'm so glad we are co-hosting this show together. This is really exciting because it's our first episode, and I want to take a minute just for some real talk for us. What are you working on this week? How is your work in progress coming?
Work in progress. Oh my goodness, so good. Obviously, today is the last day before the infamous Preptober and then the so awesome NaNoWriMo. So I have been working on my WIP. I've been calling it hashtag Project Fire. Super excited about it. I'm working on a series right now based on angels. I'm super enamored with all things like biblical, angelic things. And so it's right now this present story. I say it's after the war in heaven, but like before the creation of earth. So it's like that in between. And the beautiful thing is I've been working on this bad boy finally in the last stages of outlining before I can fill in all my plot holes and get to writing. And I am super excited. This is like plotter heaven for me. I am so excited in being in this last stage of outlining. You should see my scrivener.
That is so great. It's so exciting. And if you haven't figured it out, I am the pantser. She is the plotter. And so that's really exciting for your outline, especially for NaNoWriMo coming up. And we are going to get all into that in future episodes. So stay tuned or listen in for those. That definitely is going to be awesome.
Yes, but Angela, what are you working on? I know you always have multiple projects. Yes, ma'am.
So I'm working on a series which is about the Fae. I have not narrowed down my series title yet, and I've come up with like 5 different titles for the 3 different books. It's going to be a trilogy, and I keep changing them, so my designer is probably a little frustrated right now that I keep messaging her going, actually, I decided this is going to be the name of the first book. So I'm working on that. I'm about 30,000 words into my first draft, and I've decided like all these eye-opening things have happening. So I decided I have to go back a little bit and revamp it. And that's what happens when you just fly by the seat of your pants. Like, just have to go back and change some things, especially when some characters start heading down their different paths. So that is my burden to bear, and what I will be doing. Hopefully I can finish up the end of October of 2019. October 2019 is my goal, to finish that first draft and get it ready for my beta readers. So that's what I'm working on.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a fun process. And yeah, it's good. So have you read or watched anything inspirational or encouraging this week? And it can be anything that applies to author life, real life, anything else, whatever.
That's really good. So ironically enough, I've not necessarily read like any book or watched any movie that's been inspirational, but lately I've been intentional with who I follow as far as like the online space. And an entrepreneur I follow, she made a post about trauma and how we're not responsible for the traumas we've gone through, but we are responsible for the traumas that we have to grow over now, right? Like we're responsible for fixing it. And so that's irrelevant because the story that I'm writing, a lot of these characters deal with a lot of trauma. Like they've gone through very difficult things in the past. And so in the present, just 3D, three-dimensional characters, right? So, just having faced that and doing that on a real life perspective of like, oh, wow, you went through this and it's affecting now. I'm able to take that like real world concepts and principles and apply that to drafting. Okay, this is the real way your character would actually face this, because in actuality, this is how people deal with trauma. This is how we grow through it, right? So that's been like the biggest takeaway for me this week. I love to take real world concepts and apply it to my stories. It just makes it more relatable for me. It make, it brings that real aspect into it. And so that has been the biggest thing, is like analyzing personally and then like applying that to the story, which I found really cool.
That is beautiful. And I love how the things that happen in real life, the not so pretty things, that you can take that and craft something beautiful and it really touches people. And I think as writers, we really ought to give our readers something amazing like that. Show them the journey, take them from,
Mhm.
okay, this is before and this is the process and the journey that takes someone into something new and to being more confident in themselves and to stepping out, to realizing who they are. And I love that process that writing creates. That is absolutely beautiful. I
Oh
love
yeah, for sure. I mean, when you find that, because I know that also, as someone who is a prolific author at this point, right? You've published 10 novels. You've gone through this process multiple times, right? And so what did you find, like when you're crafting these relatable stories, right? To, for us to read and be like, whoa, I can do that too. What did you find as far as like real world concepts that help you to craft those stories that we readers can relate to?
That's great because I think the biggest thing that we can relate to is that no one is perfect. Like we all have our own struggles and we make mistakes and we say the wrong things and we take the wrong actions and we hurt other people, and sometimes it's intentional and sometimes it's not intentional at all. And I
Yeah.
think it's looking at the fact that we do both good and bad things, and we have those shades of gray inside of us, even though we might be striving for that, for perfection, for that one thing that we're striving for. And I think going back and sitting back and realizing that everyone has something, everyone has a goal or a purpose or that one thing that they're really striving for, looking forward to. And that can be their purpose or their motive or the reason behind why they do what they do. It can be their background or something that happened to them that is making them act the way they do act, or fears that are holding them back. But it's something that everyone has that makes them who they are. And I think just looking at that at a very personal level and realizing that everyone is an individual and everyone has something that they want,
Hmm.
that really helps with crafting that real story and going back and looking at characters and going, okay, what is that one thing that they want? And how can I show how it affects their entire life and affects the people that they're around, either in a positive way or a negative way? And I think that's one of the topics that we'll continue to discuss, is particularly with our community, because when you're around people and when you're surrounded by people, all of your actions that you're taking, they affect other people. And it could be in ways that you can't even imagine. It could be the best thing ever. Like someone could see something that you do and take that away and go, wow, like that really blessed me. Or they could be like, wow, okay, like I need to take a step back and refocus and figure out what's really important in my life. So I think, yeah, just think about things realistically, reading a lot of books and watching a lot of shows, just to figure out what those drivers, those motives are. Because I think once you have a motive and a driver, that really goes a long way in creating a character that's realistic and a story that really hits home with people.
I love that. A story that hits home. And you just mentioned something that I think is super important is, when we are in communities, the way we carry ourselves, it affects people, either positive or negative, right? And I think this is just a beautiful segue into our topic for today, is really just talking about the community and why indie author lifestyle was even born, right? Community is just, it's so important. We need it. In a world that is growing more social digitally, but less social as far as relationally, um,
Yes.
it's absolutely powerful to have a community of like-minded individuals that understand, what it is that they're trying to achieve as far as these stories. As authors, it's a solitary art, but we don't have to be alone going through the journey, right? And so I'd love to just talk a little bit about that. I know this was definitely your vision, and I'm just super excited to be here along the ride with you. It's just going to be a ton of fun, just bringing so many authors together and creating a safe haven, in a space where there's so many communities that, are not as best as they could be. They could do better. And so let's talk a little bit about that, like your vision and how you even decided to create indie author lifestyle for these, amazing authors.
Well, it's funny that you say that because I'm so glad that you're along for the ride and that you're co-founding this with me. It is phenomenal. It just makes me so at ease. It's fantastic. And one of the reasons is because one of my favorite, it's like an old African proverb, I think that's what it
Mhm.
is if you want to go fast, go by yourself. But if you want to go far, go together. And I absolutely love that. And that's something that keeps popping up over and over again in my life. And I keep realizing anytime I try to do something by myself, like it's easy. I'm the only one making decisions. There's no one to talk to about it. And I can just go, 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 go. And then I come to a point where I'm really burnt out and I'm just tired. And there's no one to lean on and no one to say, okay, well, we've got this. How about we pivot and do this? How about we keep going forward together like this? Like it's just so helpful to have someone. And so when I was thinking about creating a community, at first I was thinking about going for it by myself. And then I was like, well, that's not the point of a community. Community means we're doing things together. That means I can't be the only voice here. I can't be the one that's leading the charge here. Like there has to be more. There has to be more people. So I need someone who has the same vision, who's very passionate and excited about this along with me to come on board. So that's the number one thing that I thought of. And that's why you're here, because it just kind of was an awakening right in the middle of setting all this stuff up. Like, duh, like, what am I doing? I'm going against the rules of the community. No, but it's great. I was just really inspired by it because as an author, I was thinking back to when I first published back in 2015. And I did everything by myself. I think I hired maybe a personal assistant for a month around launch time. Maybe someone to do my, what was it? I did a lot of blog posts and stuff. I did a blog tour, so I had someone do that and handle that for me. But really, it was just me doing it by myself. And I was finding as I kept writing and marketing and really focusing in on the marketing, is that the more I involved other people with it, the better it got. Until I had a whole community of authors. I have an author group, a couple of them that I'm in, where we just really help each other. And I was thinking about it and I was like, this has been phenomenal for me. This has been groundbreaking. I'm not as stressed during launch week because I have to do it all myself. I mean, as an indie author, I'm still responsible for so much, but I have people that are going to help. I have people that are going to come alongside and say, hey, like, I saw your book is coming out. Can I shoot this out of my email? Can we do a newsletter swap together? Like they're going to ask questions. They're going to say, how's it going? How are sales going? Have you thought about doing this? Have you tweaked this? They're going to help out. And I really love that community. And I really love that there are people to talk to about these things. And it's a safe place to go to. It's a safe place where I know that people aren't going to laugh or ridicule me or be like, okay, I can't believe you didn't know that. That's dumb. Because it's all about learning and growing and becoming better. And it's all about collaboration and community. Because as indie authors, I don't care if we're writing books in the exact same genre, we are not competitors. Not really, because readers love to read. They will sit down and consume a book in a day or a week or however long it takes them to read it. And then they're ready for the next book and the next book and the next book. And so there's not really any like butting heads and like, I have to be the best. I have to be number one. Like, yes, we might flip flop places on the bestseller chart and that's fine, but it's all about getting there and getting together. And so I love that whole community vibe and that encouraging and uplifting. And that really is one of my favorite things. Like even growing up, I always like encouraging people and uplifting them. And so that's why the indie author community is coming together, because it's all about that encouraging and uplifting, and we can do better together. and it's not about the competition, and it's not about raising your hand and going, hey, I just need to brag for a moment because I did this, and this, and making everyone else feel bad because they're not there yet. Like, there are so many different communities that do that. And I'm like, well, this is depressing for newbies. And it's depressing for people who have been in the game and aren't at that point yet. And so I want it to be encouraging and bringing people together versus I'm the best at this. So that is one of the reasons why it came together. And I'm so glad you're on board. You've had different experiences with community, and I'd love for you to share a little bit about that and why you're so excited about this one.
I'm, first of all, excited is like an understatement, right? I am pumped for indie author lifestyle, mainly because I think it's about 2015 as well when I started getting involved in online writing communities, right? And also reading communities, totally different, but some of them act the same way, and sometimes it's sad. And mainly because, especially the larger the group became, communities, as you mentioned, they're supposed to be encouraging, uplifting. You go there because at the end of the day, your spouse may not understand your vision and what you're doing with your stories. I know authors where, their spouses don't read their work. Their parents, criticize them and ridicule them for their work. Their inner circle, so to speak, outside the online space don't understand them. And so they need an online community with writers in it to go to them and say, I'm doing this and I feel like I'm on an island, right? And then we as, community members, we can rise up and just be like, oh, you've got this, we're behind you, but that's not always been the experience, right? I've experienced that, you put something out there and the very people that, you turn to help you because you don't have those support systems in the real world, so to speak, right? So you go to the online community rather than being uplifted, there's ridicule, there's the tearing apart of, the idea, there's the, oh, well, you need to be doing this, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then this mounting pressure, happens. And my experience, it drove me to such levels of anxiety that I took a complete social hiatus for half a year. I started off with thinking, okay, it's just only going to be a few days. I need to take a break. I'll come back in a few days. I'll be good. It ended up being half a year. I didn't log into any accounts for 6 months, y'all. Why? Because of the levels of toxicity that were in some of these communities. Because at the end of the day, let's just be real. Like, writing is our lives. These stories are our heartbeat. Like, we wake up and we're ready to go. We have a world to create and to share with readers, to help them, to encourage them, to uplift them and empower them. And so to be so gung-ho about something and love it, and then to come into a community and not receive what that community should have been about, it led to that, oh, well, I'm not doing this, and so after that hiatus, I came back little by little. I came back to the intimate spaces that were still safe, right? Because at the end of the day, not all communities are terrible. Like, public disclaimer, we're not saying they're all bad. There are some amazing communities out there, right? However, like I said, in every pile of dung, you will still find pearls. You just gotta dig a little deep and find it. So I came back to the safe spaces that I'm still in, very small, intimate groups where, we're just diligently going after our craft, working on our stories. And so when this idea, this vision for indie author lifestyle was shared, my heart was like, yes! Yes, revolution, let's do this. Mainly because at the end of the day, community is so important. Like, as authors, we need it. Like, it's not like oh, well, maybe I can have some people. At the end of the day, there's going to be those times where, motivation is not there. Inspiration is not there. support and cheerleaders are not there, and your own self-confidence isn't there. You're doubting your craft, you're doubting your story idea. You're like, you worked on this story for months, and you're like halfway through your manuscript, and you're like, is it even worth it to finish this thing? I don't believe in it anymore. And it's the community that says, dude, you have an amazing story. Keep writing, keep going. You're almost at the finish line. Like, do it. Right. So indie author lifestyle is it's such a beautiful platform, and to know that there are already writers and authors, both newbies and seasoned veteran writers, that are coming together and just in a place where they can share themselves judgment free, safe, and they're able to grow in their craft, but also talk about the real things in life that indies deal with, so my experience has definitely been like let's look for those pearls, guys. But just now I'm in some other communities, and they're absolutely phenomenal. But being in indie author lifestyle, where you get both the craft side of it and then also real life side of things, like, hey, this is what the real life of an indie looks like, right? I just think it's super awesome, and I'm just glad that we're here and we're doing this. I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and I love the real talk, like the real side of it too. Like one of the things that I thought was interesting this year was I got married this year, which is not my first. It was amazing. It was awesome. And I realized that as an indie author, like my priorities shifted and they changed, and that was completely okay. But there were not a lot of people where I could go and talk to about it and say, hey, like my number one thing is not running ads for the next 4 months because I'm going to pay for my wedding. So that's my number one thing right now. My number one thing is not making sure that I can turn out, 5,000 words a day because I want to spend time with my husband and really build that beautiful relationship. And so there's that real talk side of it where you realize that we're not always going to be on every single day. Every single day is not going to be the most amazing writing day ever. And that's why there are seasons and breaks. There are times when we hit it hard and times when we pull back and realize, hey, like I need to focus on other priorities. They're going to shift, and that's okay. And I think this is a really important moment to tell people, like, when you have different things going on in your life, don't make the mistake of like moving away from relationships and time with important people and the other priorities you have in life. Like you'll have to learn how to balance both of it, or not even balance it, but learn like, okay, like these are my writing times and days, and it might not be every single day, or it might be 10 minutes, but just learning how to manage those priorities is really important. Because I didn't want to be the person that was like, hey, I'm getting married, but also I need to write books. So you're going to have to take a back seat for a minute. Like that would have been awful. So I think that real talk is really needed, especially because we have different priorities and we're not writing a book every month or every year even. And it takes a little bit longer for that draft to be finished. It's always about progress, but realizing that there are other things that will come in. So we have to stay flexible even among all of those. And I think that was my really important lesson for this year, and just what I wanted to share and really get across in the community. It's okay to talk about real things. It's okay to talk about things like, hey, I'm having this life change and I need to pull back from writing so much and being so on top of this, or my funds, instead of going towards editing and designing and ads, are going towards something else for a little bit, and that's okay. And I think indie authors need to realize it's okay to talk about these things. And that's why we have a place for that in the community, because we want to talk about those days when we don't feel good and we don't get anything done. And maybe like I spent a whole day playing World of Warcraft Classic instead of writing. So there's also that. Full disclosure.
I mean, like literally, like that's super important though, right? Like there are some days that you just put in rice and you like, you stick it in rice and you chill out. You go with your significant other for a walk in the park, or you put on your pajamas, you grab yourself some ice cream and you sit and you binge Netflix all day. Like there are days where you have tried to make your muse show up and she's not coming. And so you need to take a break. Like you just need to give yourself a break. And I think it's so good to have a space where you can have your authors amazingly so like on the grind. Okay, they're publishing, they're marketing, they're networking, they're getting the work out. But then you also have authors who feel comfortable to say, hey, my goal was to finish a novel by this month, and here we are, and I haven't even gotten a quarter of the way in. I'm extending my deadline for another 6 months because I need it. And that's totally okay. Like I think it's so good to have a safe space to do that.
Oh, exactly. It's just powerful to have that. It is powerful to talk about these things and not kind of hold back or feel bad or ashamed because, someone else wrote 40,000 words in a week and I can't even manage to do that in 4 months. So we all go at our own paces, and that is
Truly,
absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. It's a
truly.
beautiful
And
thing.
also just having a space where, like, for example, last year, right, where a beloved author, he was terminally ill. And the way that the community at the time just came together to support him, in that season. And then, unfortunately he did pass, but the love that remained and the support that remained, right? So you still had your authors who were putting things out and getting their own work out. But then at the same time, it's like, oh, well, someone here is also struggling terribly and now they're gone, and we're going to step up and support their family, right? Like that's what this space is about. Is okay, you're over here and you're doing awesome and I'm taking notes from you. Hello, gonna add that to my strategy in a few months. But then you also have, your other authors who may have a spouse dealing with a terminal illness, may have a child who's just going through a rebellious stage right now and they need to be there more so for their child. Maybe like you mentioned, finances just need to be allocated elsewhere for a little season.
Mhm.
And to have a space to be comfortable to say, listen, I just don't have the money for ads right now. We're doing something else and I'll be back at it in half a year. Having the community where you can do that and say that and know that I will not be judged because these people are like family. Like they're like my writing family. I'm safe here. I think it's just a beautiful thing.
Yes, and it's also a great place for the career authors too, because I also get as a career author, you want to make that income all the time. You want to be doing better and leveling up and going, going, going. But just like how people that work full-time jobs take that time off, and they don't have that much time off during a year, but still, like they have those weeks where they take off and they shut down, or at least I hope they shut down from work and just don't look at it. I think we need those things too. We need those refreshers. We need to make sure we're doing our prevention to keep from burnout and all of that.
Oh, yeah.
So this is the place. This is the community, the place to be. And I really wanted to create Indie Author Lifestyle as something that was off Facebook because I wanted it to be that community that is specifically for indie authors. There's no place to go to get distracted in it. You're not going to scroll through your news feed and see a new baby that was born and a pre-made cover that you don't need, but you buy anyway, like me. And 20,000 other things that show up on your Facebook feed to distract you. So I really want to have a beautiful closed network where there's still an app. You can still download it and get to it and be on your phone all day and do all that fun stuff. But it's just nice to have a place that's specifically for authors, just for authors. And
Yeah.
so we're really excited about it. So that is my spiel. Do you have any last words?
I just welcome all of you who are listening, no matter where you are at, no matter if you think, oh, well, I'm new to this game, or I've been doing this for the past 20 years. Indie author lifestyle is for you. It is a safe place. It is a community where you are going to grow as a writer. You are going to grow as someone who's turning their books into a solid business, right? Right? That's also what we're going to be discussing as well, book marketing and all the awesome things so that
Oh,
you can
yes.
bring in that income to support your family, right? Support yourself and all of your fun endeavors. And also a place where, you can make those connections with other authors like yourself and grow. So we're definitely super excited. It is for you. Feel free to join us. We would love to have you in the community.
Absolutely. And so, if you wish to be part of this vibrant community of indie authors living their best bookish life on their own terms, go to indieauthorlifestyle.com/inner circle for more information. We can't wait to meet you.
Woo! Till next time, guys.
Bye.